Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. John Kelly, Profiler here, and welcome. Today, we're going to be taking a look at Lady Bird Lake in Austin, Texas. The question we have, is there a serial killer who has been operating around Lady Bird Lake? Now, with that being said, I also want to say there is a serial killer in Austin, confirmed and under arrest since the last show we did, which was approximately a month ago. Okay, so there is a serial killer in Austin. Question is, can we put this serial killer at Lady Bird Lake? That's what law enforcement has to do. Also, at this time, what I want to do is I want to send out our deepest sympathies and condolences to the victims and all their families and friends of all the people that have been murdered down around Austin, in Lady Bird Lake and outside of Lady Bird Lake. And like I said, we do have a serial killer here. Today's guest is Dustin Ranck. Okay, Dustin, you might be familiar with him. He's been on here a number of times before. Dustin is an artist. Okay, he's a tattoo artist, and he's also a regular artist as well. But what's interesting with Dustin is Dustin likes to solve and look into mysteries. Okay, he likes the psyche of it all, like to get into it, likes to deep dive into it. Okay, he's very good at it too. So he's decided to start a new career. Okay, and he's headed for the university where he's going to be taking criminal justice. And also, very shortly, he is going to have a private detective license, and he's going to be on his way. Dustin drove a considerable considerable amount of miles, I guess that's the best way to put it, to go down to Austin because he's familiar with Austin, familiar with some people in Austin, and he, for himself, wanted to go down and just scout out, scope out Lady Bird Lake and Rainy Street, Smith Street, the whole town, what's going on down there. He's done a fantastic job. This is his first interview, as far as I know, on this. Definitely, it's the first. He's the first on our station with this, our channel. So, I mean, you're going to hear from the horse's mouth from somebody that knows his way around the streets, and that's who I love to work with. I love to work with people that are street smart, because this is how lots of times we catch these guys. Okay, and we just want to get his feedback. Now, I also want to confirm we do not have proof there's a serial killer operating on Lady Bird Lake, but we know for a fact that recently a serial killer was caught in Austin. Very bad serial killer, I may add. I mean, this guy's really, really a sick boy. I mean, he's at the head of the list, and I will break him down for you. I will break him down for you. You'll have a clear understanding about him. Also, what I want to do is I just want to remind folks that Tim Braun, Detective Tim Braun, retired. His video will be in the Discovery. Tim Braun's video is going to be about different seminars and workshops that they're going to be doing, trainings they're going to be doing. It is a terrific video. It's in our Discovery. I suggest you take a look at it. And I want you to know Timmy's the real deal. North Jersey homicide detective, many homicides, many. Okay, it's been my honor to work with them on different cases over the years. We will be working again too in the not too far future. Okay, pretty soon we're going to be hooking up, him and I, on a couple of things. So I think you'll find very interesting. But I think it's very important, if you want to take a look at his video, see what he's doing, see if there's anything you guys want to attend. I think you'll find it very interesting. And also, we're going to have Dustin Ranck's link up there. We'll have a link up there for Dustin Ranck and a link up there for Timmy, so you guys can check them both out. Okay, I know I've said a lot, but I needed to say a lot. And then we're going to get into Portland here too. So this is going to be a two-for day. You're going to get two for the price of one today. Okay, this is going to be a two. Okay, so let's go. Let's get started. Dustin, talk about. Let me make sure I have everything. I've covered everything here. I have. Okay, Dustin. Most important, talk about your odyssey and your trip down to Austin and Lady Bird Lake.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, John. It's awesome to be here with you as always. Yeah, it was a really enlightening trip, as you know, from us talking. During my tattoo career, I spent an awful lot of time down there, working, prowling around, hanging out with the locals and stuff like that. So, Austin's always got kind of a special place for me. And being that it's, not exactly in my backyard, but it's accessible. And we have this event going on of these guys turning up in the lake. Right. We don't know that there's, the serial killer that was arrested. We don't know that he's necessarily involved in that. But what we do know about being down there is they've got at the bare minimum, they've got a huge security issue. I went down there, I was down there for a few days, and, I was there from morning to night and well into the wee hours of the morning to get an idea of not just the surroundings, but talk to the people that are coming and going, because you kind of have shifts of people, right? Depending on the time of the day, you get different cultural groups. You just get different people. So I wanted to make sure I was there talking to people on the ground, working the businesses, working the trades, even some of the homeless folks. And it's interesting talking to those guys, because they are, like societally, they're pretty overlooked, and some of them are they're pretty sketchy for sure. There's no doubt about it, and they've got a lot of issues, some of them, that they're dealing with, which is why they're homeless. But what they do, or what they have the advantage of, is that since nobody really interacts with them, they see an awful lot. And even though I didn't talk to anybody specifically that said, oh, hey, I saw so-and-so doing anything, every single person that I talked to, I'm talking Uber drivers, bartenders, tradespeople, when you get down, Rainy Street, it just kind of juts off the Colorado there, kind of northward. And it's a short little run, John. And it's pretty interesting, back when I was tattooing there, in the late 90s, early 2000s, that was a sleepy little burb, 6th Street and Congress Avenue, that was and it's still hopping there for sure. But, Rainy Street was a sleepy little bungalows, and it was a mellow place. And now, they're building skyscrapers. I read, digging through some of the Austin journals and some of the investment houses, tracking back some of these properties. Some of these properties, sold for $10 million to these developers. We're talking like a regular lot with a regular house on it. We're not talking anything special, and $10 million is a lot of money. So it kind of gives you an idea of what's going on down there. When you walk down Rainy Street, it is literally like you're in a canyon of buildings. It's cool. They still have the food trucks and all that neat stuff, but the amount of action that's going down there, and the fact that when you get 150 feet off the south end of Rainy Street at night, man, it's like a different world. It goes from being busy and people really lively and all kinds of stuff going on to, zip, dude. There is nothing. You get down onto that bike path, along that waterfront. And I sent you some pictures. You can see how overgrown it is. There's a pretty good span of space between that path and the waterway. Now, normally, that's not going to be really accessible, other than there's a few little places that you can kind of cruise off and, get actually right up on the water. There's other places north of that that's got some stairways that will kind of drop down onto the waterfront. So it is accessible. It's not impossible, but the thing that I thought really interesting, because I mean, you know, Rainy Street is, I mean, you talk about day drinking, man, like people are really getting after it. And it, if you had to, if you were super intoxicated, there's only about a million places between there and the waterfront that you would think you would wind up. Now, granted, you know, when you're really intoxicated, like kind of all bets are off. But I mean, you got to make your way down there a bit, you know. So one of the things that people kept mentioning that, and everybody's got a high degree of concern, obviously based on what's going on because these bodies keep turning up. And that's just the ones that we've found floating, you know, that doesn't include maybe stuff that we haven't seen. But people are highly concerned, you know, there is no light. There, I didn't see any patrols. I have heard and read in different media sources that there are some roving patrols, but I didn't see any in the 2 or 3 days I was there. There's no, you know, there's no security, you know, there's no cam, there's no video surveillance, there's no lights, there's no emergency boxes. I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about and you look at how big the population of Austin has. I mean, it's exploded. I mean, the cranes down there basically are a separate skyline at this point. They're building so much. And I just, you know, the thing people are so concerned about is like, because there is nothing down there. I mean, if you walk off that street, brother, you are on your own. And it's really easy to see if you were looking at that location from a predator's standpoint. All you had to do, and it wouldn't be easy, and we've detailed this, you know, in our conversation of how you would get somebody there. I mean, once you got them, man, boy, that person, that victim's going to be in somebody's control zone, and there is just zero way that anybody's even going to notice it. Because once you get off that bike path, even if you're on the bike path, but once you're off it, if you make your way down to the waterfront and some of these little access points, man, I mean, there's a lot of there's trees, there's bushes, you know, there's a lot of obscure line of sight. Plus it's dark, man. I mean, it is black as night. I mean,
you were saying that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was for it being a university town and all the tech money that's there. And I mean, it even surprised me. And, you know, like you, John, I'm a street guy too. And like walking up and down that thing, you're like, wow, man, it was kind of enlightening, you know, to like, look at that, go, wow, nothing's being done here to like keep an eye, you know, not just, you know, just dismiss the guys in the lake for a second, but you got all these college students, you got a lot of drinking going on, and you just got a lot, it's a high density population area. And you would think that it would make sense just to have some minimum amount of security along that trail. And the other thing that I thought was interesting too, and that whole bike path, because it you know comes along the downtown waterfront there, is really remote, like we were talking. But there's also Waller Creek, which is just north of that a little bit, getting closer up toward Congress Avenue. And that runs up north through town. And that's got pathways too. And man, that's even more remote, you know, and it's 2 blocks kind of due northwest of Rainy Street. I mean, you pop over to Red Dirt Avenue, bam, you're on a completely separate area of pathways that, you know, made me wonder, you know, if indeed there is somebody, you know, dumping these guys in the lake, why would you go to the river versus Waller Creek? Because Waller Creek is far more secluded. It's way quieter. It's right off the path. And I don't know that there is something to that waterway, but it just is what it is. Like you got 2 access points there, and you got guys all turning up kind of in one spot. So it was a question that I just kind of rolled around to myself. And, you know, there's such an interesting mix of people down there. One of the things that was kind of an open secret about Rainy Street, and I talked to at least 10 or 12 people that worked on the street there, and they're all really gracious, very cool, you know, like younger people, the bar managers and some of the patrons. And, it's just an open secret that there are bars along that area that are chronically overserving. And some of them have a rep for people getting dosed drinks too. Now, I never saw that, but what I did see as the is the crowds kind of come out kind of mid-afternoon and it starts like really hopping. And then you get into the evening hours when people are really getting down. And I mean, there is a lot of people in a small space. It's pretty easy to clock if you're paying attention and looking around, and, people are just kind of having a good time. It's not like a subculture melting pot where people are used to kind of being under the microscope and looking out for each other. It's just people partying and having a good time. And, it's a younger, kind of hipper crowd, like, I don't know. I mean, I think people are aware of what's going on down there, but I don't think they're like really in tune with maybe just kind of the other stuff that's like the, drinks getting dosed and things like that going on, even though everybody that works there, every one of them mentioned it to me. And I thought that was pretty enlightening as well.
Dustin, something you brought up is very important to me. And it would be important to our team too, as we go over it. You have like a before and after situation, and correct me if I'm wrong, with Lady Bird Lake. Now, I think there's, for a long period of time, we've had a drowning here or a drowning there in Lady Bird Lake, but nowhere near the magnitude of what we've had, say, in the last year. Okay?
Right.
There's a lot of people that drowned in that lake in the last year. And, a lot of it's so far been chalked up to suicide. Drowning is way down the list, way down the list on, preferred choice for suicide. I mean, drowning is probably 8th or 9th down the list, and only 2% of all suicides that take place in the United States are from drowning. All right. Now, I've been around a while, and I've intertwined and intermingled with various people who've committed suicide, and what we've done is a psychological autopsy on them after the fact. And usually, what you're going to find is they have gone on their computer, their phone, whatever, online. They've gone online and they've looked. If they're serious about committing suicide, they've looked at the various ways they can commit suicide. And the reason they've done this is because I think they want the least torturous way to die. I mean, I think they want the least painful death they can have. So that is major here as well. I mean, I don't know. We have not gotten to that point yet. We do not have enough information to do some psychological autopsies on the people. We would need their families for that, that have been suspected of, committing suicide or being drowned. Their family believes, hey, there's no way, my child, or my brother, my sister, my brother, there was no women found, would have committed suicide like this. Then certainly that's where you start with a psychological autopsy. And then you start to go over some other pieces of it. Not only was he searching the best way to commit suicide online, did he start to give things away? Did he leave a note? I haven't heard about any notes being left here. I know that notes are certainly not always present. In fact, maybe the majority of suicides don't leave a note, but there's usually a statement, there's usually something. The other thing that bothers me is the testing. When you have these knockout drugs, like roofies and the such, you know, you're going to have to do specific testing through the autopsy to see if you can pinpoint these drugs. They will not just pop up on a regular alcohol and drug panel. Okay, you know, the coroner is going to have to do, you know, specific testing as part of the toxicology report and the autopsy. All right. So, with that being said, that's one way you can start to look at this. Family members need to look at, you know, were there any of these signs? Were there any suicidal signs, warning signs going on that they may have missed? Okay. If you think the person committed suicide, because there's usually some warning signs. Then the other thing we have to look into is, you know, the situation, the environment that you painted. Okay. I mean, this is a predator's paradise, right? I mean, that
Easily.
is that. I mean, if you're a predator, I mean, this is a perfect place for you to take advantage of someone. Getting back to what you brought out about and where I started about the transient situation, you know, like there's so much building going on. Well, when there's so much building going on, that usually means there's a lot of contractors and laborers and this and that, everybody else involved, workers involved with all this building that's going on. You get an influx of people coming into town. So as I said in the beginning, you know, what has happened, you know, in the space of a drowning here or there a year or two ago, right? Versus within the last year and having quite a few drownings taking place. Now, usually, I mean, everything is a system, and the system's running at a certain level. For instance, Austin is a system. Lady Bird Lake is a system. What I mean by that is, yeah, you know, we have a drowning here or there, you know, but we do not have, you know, multiple drownings in a very short period of time, right? So what has changed?
Mm-hmm.
Well, something you told me already that has changed is all this building going on, is all these people coming in. Okay, so what's happening there is new people, strangers, are being introduced into that system, right? So they are entering the system, and you know, well, obviously, yes. I mean, that these drownings were, you know, possible murders, okay, would have taken place with all this new influx of people, okay, that a predator came in. A predator came into a system where there was not a predator before. However, we do have a predator in Austin that I want to talk about a little bit. And this is quite a predator as far as I'm concerned. And I don't think a lot of people have picked up on the type of predator this is. But this is somebody that's really an evil dude. And I don't put anything past, anything at all past. Okay. We're talking about a guy that's been arrested recently by the name of Raul Meza Jr. Okay. Raul Meza Jr. And he's from Austin. And this guy was living with an older man. He killed the older man, stole the older man's car. I guess he lived with him a year or so and took off. And the cops got after him. And finally, he called the cops up. And I guess he was talking to a desk sergeant somewhere down there in Austin. And he said, I understand you're looking for me. He's 62 years old. He's no young guy. He said, I understand you're looking for me. He said, I just killed this older man that I was living with. And then he talked about, well, that's not the only person I killed. I killed a woman too. And he said he killed this woman for sexual gratification back in, I believe it was 2019. Okay. Now, what happened is they did get his DNA from that murder, but somehow, some way, he slipped through the cracks. This guy actually slipped through the cracks. Now, based on our investigation into this guy and looking into this guy's history, Fox News has written up a pretty extensive piece on this, and we'll have that put in the Discovery as well. We'll have that piece put in there. Okay? But anyway, in checking out this guy's history, knowing that he has admitted to the desk sergeant or to whatever law enforcement person he was talking to there, he admitted to killing this older man. The man was 80 or so that he was lived with him for over a year, stealing his car. I guarantee he stole money and other things from him too. He talked about killing this woman who was an elderly woman back in 2019 for sexual reasons. When they caught up with this guy, he had zip ties, he had duct tape, and he had a gun. So he had a nice little kit with him, okay? Abduction, rape kit, whatever you want to call it, that he was running around with, okay? And what was interesting to me is this guy killed for sex, the woman, okay? And then he killed the man for money, okay? So not only do we see a sexual serial killer, or we see somebody that's interested in killing for money or drugs or whatever, and they fall into another subtype than the sexual serial killer. They fall into a comfort killer subtype. Well, right now we have a mix of both. We have a guy here who's kind of like a hybrid who is killed for comfort, creature comforts. That's where comfort comes from, because they kill for creature comforts, the money, the car, whatever else he stole from the guy. And then we have a sexual serial killer, okay, that killed this woman for sexual reasons, for sexual gratification. So now we start to look into him, we go deeper with him. So now he's 62 years old. We find out when he was 14 or 15 years old, he did an armed robbery and he shot a guy up when he robbed him. He's 14 or 15 at the time. Now, he doesn't know if that guy's going to live or die. Okay, so at that point in time, you have a budding serial killer at 14 or 15. I mean, somebody that has, no respect for life at that age and is willing to not only rob you, but shoot you at that young is on his way, okay, to a very evil life of hell. Well, anyway, what happens then is that his next move that we can kind of look at and focus on and track is when he is around 20 years old, he rapes and kills an 8-year-old girl, okay, coming out of school, throws her body in a dumpster. So there we have robbing, but he didn't kill the guy. Probably tried to, but he didn't. Robbing. We have the murder of this little girl, God bless her, and he gets caught on that. So now he gets sentenced 30 years in prison. They let this guy out after 11 years for good behavior, right? Now, we know how many of these guys reoffend when they get out, especially sexual serial killers, especially. We've had guys in for 20 years. As soon as they get out, they reoffend, okay? So now this guy gets out after 11 years, okay, and then he starts up again, okay, and then now we have him moving on. He's on parole, keeps breaking parole, keeps going back, but he needs to be looked at, and he's being looked at for at least 11 or 12 more murders. Okay, they're looking at him for 11 or 12 more murders. I gotta believe, from 14 or 15 years old to 62 years old, with some time in between in prison, this guy's still got a lot of bodies out there. I got to believe he's got a lot of bodies out there, and they have their work cut out for them because they got to go back and they got to trace and look up and down and see where this guy's been and who he's killed. All right. They really got to put a full court press on this guy. Now, what this guy also tells the desk sergeant, and this like blew me away, is now I know, we've got a comfort killer, we've got a sexual killer, we've got a hybrid wacko on our hands, right? They have on their hands down there in Austin, right? Then he tells the guy, the cop, the law enforcement fellow that answered the phone, I think he was a sergeant, right? He goes and tells him, he says, yeah, and I'm looking forward to killing again. And he's 62 years old, telling, this sergeant, I'm looking forward to killing again. So now what does that tell me? That tells me that also we could probably have a thrill killer here, okay? The thrill of the kill. So if we're not seeing a whole lot in Lady Bird Lake, a whole lot of evidence of somebody being assaulted, which I'm hoping we find out more on that. I mean, I could see a guy like this, killing somebody, just hitting them over the back of the head and just flipping them in the lake or throwing them in any place, anybody, anywhere, just to kill them. I mean, this guy gets off on the thrill of the kill. Okay, this is a really, really bad dude that needs to be taken off the street, and he's institutionalized. He's institutionalized. He left. When he left, he went to, after he got out of prison, I mean, he kept going back and forth, violating parole. But the bottom line is, at 62 years old, he's living in a room with little money he has, and the only money he has is pretty much based on what he stole off the old man, and pretty much for any hustle he could pick up out there, right? That's why I have questions about the victims in Lady Bird Lake, where they found with any cash. Maybe they had their wallets, maybe they had their IDs, maybe they had their phones, or didn't they have their phones or their IDs, right? Or their wallets. Was it the amount? Was there cash? Was there cash in the wallets? If there's no cash at all, then that could be a sign too that it was just a grab, whack over the head, grab your money, throw you in the lake. See it, I mean, there's different bits and pieces to this that have to be looked at and have to be looked at really closely, okay? So this guy's got the thrill of the kill going for him. He told the cops that. It's on the recording. It was printed in the paper. Fox printed it, and somebody else printed it. Maybe Fox did not print it. I think they did, but I'm not sure. But I know it was printed. It was printed elsewhere. I'm looking forward to it. In other words, I'm looking forward to kill again. So, do you want to come and get me or not? Now, why would a guy call up, admit he's a serial killer, admit 2 murders at 62 years old, and want to go back to the joint? Why does he want to go back? Because I'm going to tell you, as far as, and I know a number of killers that I've talked to and still talk to, some serials that are still alive, on why they do what they do, still doing research. I'm still researching them consistently. They have better benefits in prison than you or I or anyone else on the outside would have with Medicare. Okay? I mean, I know one serial killer in particular who's had a tumor removed from his brain, who's had a valve put in his heart, okay, who's had a pacemaker put in, who's had his appendix taken out, who's been treated for COVID 3 different times. Okay, so you're talking almost, with these prices today from the insurance company, you're talking almost maybe somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 worth of medical treatment for free that the state's paying for, right?
Yeah.
Because they know. I mean, at 62 years old, this guy's no spring chicken. He's already familiar with the prison system. He was there for so long. He knows he's going to get 3 hots. He knows he's going to get a cot, and he knows he's going to get his medical needs are going to be taken care of. Okay, so I think this is why he wanted to be arrested. I think he's going to play the game with them for a while. He wants notoriety. He wants to, kind of taunt them. I mean, what do you think about a guy like that? For being down around Rainy Street.
Yeah, that it's
Rainy
really
Street or
this
being
cat
down
is
around
really interesting. He's got a pretty broad range of people that he doesn't mind. Yeah, it's interesting because you got Rainy Street, right? That's pretty, like, it's younger, it's hipper, but then you move up just a couple of blocks into, like, the more traditional Austin scene up around 6th Street. And it's a little more old school, it's a little grittier. But you could see this guy, if he cleans up a little, he would stand out typically on Rainy Street, being an older dude. If he's, a guy straight from the joint, like, this guy, you can kind of tell, John, and and I know from working on these guys for years, especially guys that just can't stay out of prison, they got kind of a way that they talk and their body language, and like they're really out of place because they're kind of institutionalized at that point. And if they're talking to a bunch of young people, it makes me wonder, because if this guy is, if he's an easy talker, if he's able to, like, move in and out of different cultural groups and age groups with, God only knows what this guy's been doing for, the last 50 years or whatever. But he certainly, if you got the old man, you got the, older woman, and then you've got this kid, and then you've got the kid that he shot. Like, he doesn't seem to be too discriminatory about who he's going after, which I think, like, totally lines up with, he digs that action. And you brought up something too, John, a while back. I think it was in your first video about this, about, like a level of tolerance that's building. He's got like this, if he's like doing this thing for thrills, it's the same thing as like a junkie looking to score, right? Like,
exactly,
exact same thing. And you had mentioned this earlier too, this guy got bounced, like when he got out of the joint, for killing that kid. And this is something I'll really give the media some credit for, because, at the time, law enforcement either couldn't or wouldn't. I don't know. I'm not speaking on their behalf because I don't know the internal structure around them in their relationship with this dude at all. But the media, like, followed this dude everywhere they tried to place him. So he kept getting bounced from one place to the next. If this guy's a real fiend for action, and he's got people looking over his shoulder, it's just a matter of time that he gets a piece of clear air that he's gonna get right into it. He's gonna go score wherever, with whoever and however he can. So I when I heard that this guy kept getting bounced, that your comment about tolerance and like the action and addiction angle on it, like, really struck me. Like, this guy clearly just, he doesn't have to be, he doesn't have to fit like a particular cultural group, especially in Austin where there's a lot of mixed stuff. He just needs to know how to talk to people. And if he has talked his way in, there has to be some sort of way that this, and from what I have read, the older man that he was staying with was at one time either a parole officer or his parole officer, whatever, one way or another, he's got to have some gift of gab. And if he was working Rainy Street or any of that area downtown, he's definitely going to have to be a little like socially savvy. And, early on, and I don't remember the exact timeline, but he was a younger guy. He actually held his own press conference talking about, hey, not really like a bad guy, would never, like set out to harm anybody ever again. And, like he was cleaned up in his suit. He's a younger man at that time. Like I said, I don't remember the timeline, but he's clearly not afraid to put his message out there and like try to convince people that he's an upstanding dude. And if he's already like doing press conferences at that age, it doesn't strike me as like too big of a stretch to go on down the road to continue to develop that. If he has made it this far, and also John, I agree. Like he may be, he's getting older. He's looking for his retirement plan in the joint. I kind of lost my train of thought there, but this dude looking at prison as, not only his retirement plan, but if he's calling them up and saying, hey, he's already copping to it. He's feeling pretty comfortable with whatever. I mean, is he veiling a message there? Yeah, he wants to get back into the joint, but how much confidence does he have? I mean, given his track record, how much confidence does he have that he's actually going to wind up in there for any real length of time? He gets in there, he gets to chill out for a while, a few years. I mean, he's already been bounced out of there a couple, 3 times. This guy's, attempted murder, rape and murder of an 8-year-old kid, Yeah,
I think he's really over the edge now. He's, really to the point where, he could believe, I mean, it's that pathological narcissism that all these guys have that, nobody can really, outsmart him. He's going to outsmart everybody, He could be a heavy drinker. He could have called the cops up in a drunken state. I don't know. We're gonna have to find out more about that. What's interesting to me is the kit. He wasn't found that I know of with any knockout drugs, but he was found with a gun. He was found with the duct tape. He was found with the zip ties, right? I'm wondering if any of the victims that were found in Lady Bird Lake had any, signs of restraint. Restraint's been putting on, that maybe somebody did have them tied up with some zip ties or duct tape or whatever, then took it off them before they threw them in the water or whatever. I mean, I could see this guy, this crazy guy, he's not like a Ted Bundy. He's not like a Gary Ridgway. Okay. I mean, this guy I have not come across too many like this guy. I mean, this guy is, purely, you talk about the high of addiction. I mean, this is all about self-gratification, whatever. I mean, this guy feels if this guy's going to get off killing you, he'll kill you. And the thrill of the kill. I mean, this guy, you got money, and that's it. He'll kill you for that money. He feels like sex, and you're appealing to him. He'll kill you and rape you, or rape you and kill you. I'm sorry. And I mean, this guy's out there. He's really one sick cookie, and it's a good thing they have him and they got him now. We're gonna have to wait and see where this goes. But again, it's a long distance between tying him to Rainy Street, tying him to Smith Street, tying him to Lady Bird Lake. Although, if he had a phone, if he had a cell phone, they can possibly do that easy, digitally do that. So I'm hoping for some of that. but we definitely can't say that he is a serial killer in Lady Bird Lake. Yes, we can definitely say that he is a serial killer. No two ways about it. Okay. He definitely is in Austin. Lady
Yeah.
Bird Lake is in Austin. Okay. So, we're going to have to let law enforcement kind of kick this can down the street and, see what they come up with. The other thing that, is there anything else you want to say on that before I move on to my next stop?
No, I think you got to get, it's interesting about the phone thing too, John. I had, it kind of popped in my head this morning. I made a note of it here on the side of the screen about, like obviously like, you know, law enforcement able to track any kind of digital footprint. I don't know if this guy's using burners or what, but a guy in the joint would know, it's been in and out of the joint would definitely know about that. But as we had talked about, how does a guy that maybe doesn't fit in real close in a place like Rainy Street, it's really easy, he's looking to score, maybe, like he's getting caught with this kid, like, on Rainy Street, that's not going to maybe be something that he might use, but he would definitely use like dope or drugs or something like that. But as far as the digital footprint, I'd be really curious to know if any of these guys that they found, like what were the last texts that they had? Because we had talked about how would you get somebody from Rainy Street to the water? Because I'm telling you, man, like you're not just going to walk down there and barf your eyeballs out into the lake. Like, I mean, you could, sure. And I'm sure people do, but if you wanted to get somebody down there, it'd be a real simple process. You meet somebody, you're drinking, you're having a good time. You're like, hey man, let's go party. Like, let's continue this. Let's get into something a little heavier. Hey, I'm going to go down here. I'm going to shoot you a text and either share my location with you, or I'm going to, give you a location. Meet me there in 25 minutes. They leave separately. So there's no, hey, just some guy having a drink at the bar. They split and they go their separate ways or whatever, or meet me in an hour, whatever. That's an old time tactic. But, if he's this guy, he's 62, man, like, and he's been in and out of the joint, he would absolutely know how to do that. Does he? I don't know. But most of the guys that have been in the joint that I know would definitely know how to do that. So it was just something, it was funny that you brought it up because I thought about it too this morning. It was like, wow, I wonder if I don't know, but I would be curious if they're looking into who were the last people the victims were actually talking to on their phones. That potentially could be really revealing. So.
Yeah, excellent point. And, based on the detailed information you gave us today on that whole area going down into the lake and how dark it is and at night, okay, and the trees and the bushes, and I mean, a predator's paradise, we can say, right? I mean, this is this guy could, he maybe he doesn't have anything to do with, knockout drugs, roofies or anything. And, maybe he's focused just on whoever strays from the pack, like who's ever drunk and kind of moves off, Rainy Street or Smith Street or whatever, right? Maybe that, somebody who's really out of it and under the weather from drinking. I mean, that's his, victim of choice. And then, I mean, I could see this guy stooping to anything. I mean, there's nothing this type of guy would not do if he felt he was going to get something out of it sexually, or through gratification, self-gratification. I mean, this guy, is focused on, again, the self-gratification or the money, whatever's gratifying towards him. And again, I have to stay focused too when I'm talking about a guy like this on playing God, having the last word. If you live or die, I mean, a lot of these guys really get off on that. And I've had them tell me, hey, John, you've heard about getting high on drugs. You know about getting high on drugs. Let me tell you, there's no higher high than having a choice over a person's life or death, because it's godlike. It's godlike. And they've told me,
Mhm.
that they get off to that. So anyway, I mean, it's something we definitely have to stay tuned. It's up to Austin's law enforcement, and we'll have to sit back and wait and see there. And then the other thing too that I find very peculiar, nobody, it's always somebody alone. We don't have two people down there. You know what I mean? It's always somebody alone down at Lady Bird Lake, for whatever reason, ended up in the lake. How come there's not two guys down there having a couple drinks and, oh, my buddy slipped in and he fell in, and why is everybody alone down there? See, this is the other thing. Okay, suicide. All right, yeah, that's a very personal. I want to be alone kind of end to your life. But except with these mass murderers that we have. But I mean, the bottom line is there's no witnesses to them falling in the water, seeing them jump in the water, or not that I know of. Not that I know of. So I don't know how, you can just rubber stamp this drownings, or suicide. I think we need a little bit more, even a psychological autopsy.
Yeah.
Definitely better specific drug testing for, knockout drugs. I mean, no question about it, date rape drugs. Also, too, the last thing I want to talk about here is, Portland. Okay, I want to bring Portland up because Portland brings back memories to me. Just seeing these 6 women murdered in Portland. And I think the audience deserves to have understanding about this, okay? So they bring out 6 women found dead. In fact, they don't even say murdered. I'm not quite sure. I think they've listed it as murders. I know there is only one instance where we're talking about blunt force trauma for sure, but I don't see a cause of death on the other women, right? So I'm being careful with this, and this is up to law enforcement. But what I want the audience to know is that, and they say they have no ties at all yet or any information to prove that there is a serial killer active, okay? But what I would like the audience to do is take a look at Portland, if they're interested in Portland, and look at the dates of when these people were missing, when they were found, okay? And see how close they are. Because to me, it's looking at, well, if there is a serial killer, okay? My personal opinion is there is, okay? He's a man on fire, okay? Because, I mean, 6 people in such a short period of time leads me, and maybe I've been doing this too long that I'm focused on that, on a serial killer, but it reminds me so much of other cases that I've worked on, and one out there in particular, okay? And that's Green River, where, women were found. I think 4 were found initially, and then it went on from there, okay? And I had the opportunity to work with, Frank Adamson, I mean, who's taught me so much over the years, and I truly respect him as a friend and a partner. But you got to understand, if the police turn around and don't have definite proof it's a serial killer, they can't call it a serial killer. So you got to give the cops, that kind of credit, that they have to have more proof, right? But still in all, 75 or 100 miles is no big deal to these guys, which I think the audience needs to know. And here's where I'm going with to the audience. 75 or 100 miles is not a long way to drive. If you look at any of these serial killers, the vast majority of them, when they get arrested, have unbelievable mileage on their cars. Okay? Because they're always trolling. They're always driving. You're always looking. You're always stalking. Okay? So, I mean, they have unbelievable amounts of mileage. Doesn't surprise me being within a 75 or 100-mile radius, because these guys will drive and they will look and they will stalk. And it could even, some of them were truck drivers. So it was just on their route, you know what I mean, over the years that we've run into. So, I mean, the cops really, really have to, do a deep dive on this out there in Portland. There's no question about it. And I totally understand them not coming out, them being law enforcement and saying they have a serial killer unless they have enough proof. Because once you have a serial killer, I mean, everything blows up. Okay, it causes havoc in town, havoc with tourism, havoc with people fearing for their lives. I mean, a dark veil comes over, evil veil comes over the whole area. People are in fear. And along with that, here comes the money, because now you've got to hire other cops. You've got to bring more people on. You've got to create a task force, and that costs money. That causes you to take cops from other positions or other jobs they're doing to come on your task force and to follow through on the task force. So it is a major situation all the way around. When an area has a serial killer, I mean, and it can become extremely expensive as well to put this task force together and to do it right. There's no question about it. One way they're going to find out, I think for sure, is if they find another body near any of the bodies they've already found. And we've been through that many, many times. It's good if a search is done at least a quarter mile out, 360, with 360 search a quarter of a mile out from where a body has been found. Because if a serial has gotten away with a murder for a considerable amount of time, they will use that dump site again. Okay, they will use it again because they feel it's safe. Nobody's found the body yet, so they'll go back. So I think that's something that's very, very important. And then the other thing that jumps out at me, and why I say to myself, well, it's my opinion, there is a serial until I hear cause of death. Okay, because if they're murders and you're saying there's no serial killer, then the good news is you don't have a serial killer. But the bad news is you've got 6 different killers. At what time is one of them going to be killing somebody else and become a serial, right? So, you may say you don't have a serial, but I'd like to hear cause of death here on these 6 particular women because, I mean, what's worse, a serial killer or 6 separate murderers or 5 separate murders or 4 separate murders? I mean, you got to have a serial if you have multiple murders. It's going to be hard not to. It's going to be very hard not to. So I think that's something I've got stuck back here, and I want to hear more about the cause of death. And, of course, again, too, where these bodies were found, the dump sites. That's also something interesting that my colleagues and I may be addressing sooner than later, because we do have considerable experience in that area. And certainly my partner, Frank Adamson, has a lot of experience if we decide to pursue it. We'll see. We want to leave it up to the Portland law enforcement right now, the whole area of law enforcement around Portland, to see what they can put together and come up with something on this. But won't be surprised if you see another body. I hope not. I hope not. And again, our condolences go out to all the family and friends of all the victims. Our deepest sympathies and condolences. Terrible, terrible how this can destroy a community. You know. But is there anything else we need to say or we need to talk about before we break? Good. We all good?
I don't think so, but you did bring up an interesting point about Portland. You know, it's my old hometown, and I'm not at all like, what's that? Yeah, I'm not at all tying Austin to Portland with this latest development at all. But Austin and Portland aren't real dissimilar, like in their demographic. And the other thing that they're not real dissimilar with, and this is a topic that I was talking with, you know, like everybody shared this with me, and we kind of touched on it about, you know, there's a high degree of, you know, there just displaced people in both those cities, and there's a high degree of, you know, people on the streets that shouldn't be. There's a high degree of drug use, like exponentially high. And I have some contacts in Portland that work in that line of fields, you know, in that line. So I know, like, you know, you see it on the street and you know it's bad. Yeah, but when you hear it, you know, from a like a statistical standpoint, it's mind blowing. And Austin isn't real different, but that word displacement gets used a lot in both of those cities. You know, people that have lost a lot of stuff that, you know, maybe have already been dealing with financial addiction, emotional, whatever, you know, is it pushing somebody, you know, past the point of no return? I don't know. But, you know, with all of this progress that's been happening and everything that's been going on, you know, individually with these cities, there's just a lot of commonality there in that displacement category. So it's just putting another something out there to potentially draw a pattern too, because they share so much. So,
And that's an excellent point too, because there's a lot of mental illness around homeless or displaced people, however you want to look at it. Okay, a lot of mental illness. There's a lot of anger that goes along with certain mental illnesses, and rage and drug use, of course, we know. But I mean, I just like, we need more answers on the victims of Lady Bird Lake, and we need more answers up in Portland, and I don't think we'll be waiting long to get some answers somewhere. Listen,
absolutely.
I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Dustin, so much for your time, for your involvement in this. I give you so much credit, you know, for driving as far as you drove. I'm not going to say where you're from, to get down there, to investigate the situation, to get back to us, and, you know, to just let us know, keep us in the loop. I can't thank you enough, really, buddy. Appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I'm sure our audience appreciates it. And, you know, we'll be talking again soon.
Yeah, no, thank you, John. Yeah.
This is just really getting started here. Okay. This is going to be interesting. You know, this is a major, got a couple major mysteries here going on. And to my audience, I want to say thank you so much. We've been on here longer than we usually are, and you know, I just want to thank you so much for your subscriptions, for your comments. Please continue to subscribe. Please continue to comment. Can't thank you enough. We always like to hear from you. Most importantly, please take care of yourself. It's very hard out there. These are really rough times. They're scary times, you know, so you got to be on your toes and keep your wits about you, but stay safe. That's the most important thing. Be alert. God bless, and thank you so much. Have a great
day.
Take care now.